get benefits and services back together. Excellent. Let me find where I'm at here. All right. I think we have everyone. Hi, Scott. Do you need to call roll for us? Go ahead.
For the State Treasurer, Mr. Seha. Ms. Higa.
Here.
Ms. Yamamoto.
Here.
Ms. Dillon.
Here.
For the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Ms. Umat.
Here.
For the Director of Finance, Ms. Ortega. Chairperson Hendricks, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Scott. First item is I'd entertain a motion to approve the committee agenda.
Move. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great. Item 2 is approval of our minutes, and those are minutes from our July 13th Benefits and Services Committee. I'd entertain a motion. Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Those are approved. Thanks, committee. Item number 3 is our member education service delivery overview, and we've got Andrew Blair, Roth and Sandy Blair here to walk us through it. I have to say, I do love this new thing with our slides, having what do we call that? The wall that's in our building. What do you call that? I don't know what that's called, but
Art glass wall.
art glass. Thank you. Art glass wall. I love having the art glass wall part of our slides. Speaking of culture, that's been a big topic today.
Yes.
To me, this is a perfect example of culture for me. It's something that's beautiful and something distinct about our building, so I love that.
Agreed.
So Andrew, Sandy, take it away.
Yes, thank you. Well, in response to the committee's request for information about service delivery efforts, with a focus on outside of the member service center regions, Sandy and I helped a little bit, but this is mostly Sandy and her team putting together a lot of information. So I'm going to hand it over to Sandy and take it away.
Thank you, Andrew. So as you all know, Retirement Readiness is responsible for the delivery of education to our members through benefit planning sessions, whether those are individual or group, workshops, outreach events, and member service center contacts. So this last year, we finished our last member service center, opened in San Diego, and began conducting services there last November. And then over the course of the past fiscal year, with the merging of the Client Outreach and Guidance Division with Defined Contribution Solutions, we've really worked to integrate the Pension 2 program into all the member service centers. So we have been working on a robust business plan and working with all the member service center staff as well as support staff here at headquarters that support our initiatives, really taking into account the board's initiatives on the CalSTRS business plan and incorporating those, and then looking at initiatives on how retirement readiness are going to meet those goals and adding our own. So you'll see there on this slide, those are the focus on our outreach initiatives. The Teachers Retirement Board are noted as initiatives on the CalSTRS plan, and then the retirement readiness initiatives that we've added in support of how we're going to meet those plans. We also are continuing to work with all the member service centers to develop their own business plans. A strategic plan, more to speak to that, is to how to meet these initiatives. So how and what stakeholders they're going to go out and meet with. So each member center might have a different focus depending on relationships that they've already have in existence, and then where they see in their service area opportunities to explore greater relationships now and in the future. And through this, we've also really broken down demographics of each of their service regions, and I'm going to kind of go through slides showing you what those are, and then talk about how we're going to reach out to the outlying areas. I think our Riverside Member Center, they have a bigger geographic area, but really here, West Sacramento, trying to cover all the way up and serve our members up to the north border becomes
Density, right?
that too.
Population densities and the different, yeah.
And and really focusing on that age 44 demographic. So we've honed in on that. We have also, we're in the process of successfully adding new positions to all the member service centers, and we're calling those hybrid specialists. And those individuals are going to focus on the defined benefit piece, but then also adding more robust defined contribution conversations to their role. So we've launched this past few months an actual Pension 2 workshop that we are now delivering in the member centers. Prior to that, the defined contribution staff used to do that mostly at outreach events or health and benefit fairs where they were requested. So we're adding that as more of our repertoire of our core workshops in all the MSCs. And as we get these hybrid specialists on, they'll be responsible for doing those too. And then they will also take the lead role in providing financial literacy education. So that financial awareness workshop series. So we're going to be offering those in a more robust manner. So we're still in the process of filling some key management positions, but I'm very happy to say that Christina Elliott has joined Retirement Readiness as the Assistant Director. Yeah, so happy to have her on board. She's been here a little over a month. She's
in the
currently
building somewhere?
training. Huh?
She's in the building somewhere?
She is. She's currently doing new employee training, learning about the benefits and kind of the job of the benefit specialist and the member center operations, because that's the area of focus that she's going to be overseeing. So really excited to have her on board. Okay, so we'll go through each member service center, and we've broken this down to the areas and counties that they serve. So for Glendale, primarily Los Angeles and Ventura counties, you can see the demographics there. And then the total members that they saw in sessions and workshops last fiscal year. This doesn't count the counter contacts. And then the locations, because all the MSCs have satellite locations that they do benefit planning sessions and workshops on a regular basis. So those are the areas where the satellite locations are
Sandy,
serviced
can
by
I just
Glendale.
clarify? So in the satellite locations, those are our staff at those satellite
Yes.
locations? Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to, okay.
Yes. And I'll talk about
Just
the contracts
Yeah,
too,
if you
and we'll
could,
point
that'd be
those out.
great. Thanks.
So yes, our staff goes, sometimes it's a weekly, sometimes monthly, maybe it's every 6 weeks, basically depending upon demand. And we have meetings with our managers of the scheduling team, as well as all the member service center managers, where we're really looking at demand in certain areas. And when we don't have services available, there's an ongoing conversation in weekly meetings about where we need to open up more sessions and looking at the capacity to do that so we can try to serve the members the best we can. So I'm going to move to Irvine. And so.
I'm sorry to keep bugging you, but with the sessions, those are just, what are we calling a session? Is that
That's
a
the
counseling
individual
session?
and group and telephone.
That counts group, okay, so group and individual,
The
okay.
benefit planning
it.
sessions. Yes. So here's the Irvine Member Service Center, and again, Los Angeles and now Orange County, so they overlap with Glendale a bit. Their members' demographics are there, and then the members that they saw last year, and their satellite locations in Downey and Santa Fe Springs. And then Riverside. So Riverside serves Riverside and San Bernardino counties, again, their demographics, and they have satellite locations, Palm Springs, Hemet, Murrieta, and Hespera. They also, Augustina, the manager of Riverside, has worked very well with Rose Luna and CTA, so really developed a strong collaboration and partnership with them. And so we do a number of different outreach workshop events and coordination, really going down to the desert area. So they've kind of broken their area in 5 different regions or territories where they call the desert, the high desert, East Riverside, West Riverside, and San Bernardino. So they also do services on a rotating basis out of some of those other offices. And then the Santa Clara Member
Sandy, hang on
Center.
1 second, let me just grab, Dana's got a question.
Oh, sorry, Dana.
It's okay.
That's okay, going back down to that Riverside. I'm trying to remember my geography down there.
Don't test.
Hesperia would probably be the furthest north,
The Apple Valley.
okay, so
in
then is that heading up to 395, the back of the Sierra? Who goes up the back of the Sierra?
Anybody? Denise?
Sierra.
So 395 goes up through
The ECRs.
in Yamano? Do we have anybody that, because you said sometimes they go out for a week, and I know that, so when they're coming north, they go to Reading for a week? Or for a couple of days at least?
Yeah, there you go.
Do we send anybody up that 395 corridor that goes up the back of the Sierra?
Goes through Bishop and,
It's my understanding that occasionally, I don't, from a satellite location where there's a regular every 6 week, every other month, there's not that much demand, but
I'd have
occasionally.
to check.
Okay.
as
I don't
needed.
know.
yeah.
I'm looking at the territory that they cover, which is immense already.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the Central Valley, the rest of Southern California, that's a huge hole on that backside of the Sierra. Okay, thank you.
I'll check.
Yeah, I wonder what the membership number would be in that section. It'd be interesting.
There's several thousand at least.
Yeah.
Okay, so Santa Clara, so those counties served are noted there, as well as the demographics. Their member seen for the last fiscal year and the satellite locations that they serve is Pleasant Hill and San Francisco. So we have someone in both of those locations every week because they're busy and there's a high demand there. San Diego,
Sorry, Sandy. Let me grab Karen real
Sorry.
quick. That's okay.
When you say every week, what does that mean?
we have state employees that go and work out of satellite offices and conduct sessions each week in so we have a location in San Francisco and one of the benefit specialists, and they'll rotate as well, but we'll work in that office and see members in San Francisco, as
Right.
well as we send staff
So they're
Pleasant
there,
for 3 days, 2 days.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
so it's on
We
a
don't have
limited
a-
schedule then?
We don't have a service center
Right,
up there, so
right.
it's
Yeah.
a
Okay,
satellite, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And then San Diego, so like I said, this member center just opened. We had staff that were training and getting their feet wet. We actually just started going back to the satellite locations approximately 4 months ago. And so we've been servicing those areas again like we did when we had the contract there. So that's been very successful, and they've been filling up as well. And then now West Sacramento. So West Sacramento is responsible, like I said, for many counties, all the way up to the Oregon border. So we have satellite offices, we do conduct sessions, we have a good partnership with Elk Grove. Most of those are workshops that we go and do, or group sessions in Elk Grove. We've really partnered with Maggie there in promoting the Financial Awareness Series, and the district has done that on our behalf, and that's one of the areas that we've gotten some of the greatest attendance in those Financial Awareness Series, working with the districts. And then we have individuals in our Santa Rosa office that work out of the County Office of Education. Those individuals cover up Fort Bragg, Mendocino area, and then the Napa Valley. So they travel in there as well.
The broad swath. Sandy, I've got a couple folks on the queue here. So Dana?
I really like these slides. I'm just looking at this one. I mean, I'm looking at aged 44 and under is 27,000. We're really old in the North State. So, one of the things that I think would be beneficial, when you update these is, I think some of these satellites, not the satellites, but some of our, service centers might have more people in them, which means that, like, I think there was one that had 4,000 workshops and things like that, and then the next one might only have 2,000. Well, it might be because they have one other person that can go out and do that. So if we can put the amount of personnel that we have that are doing out
we could
that,
do
the
that.
staffing would be great. And then my second question after looking at this one is, what happened to Sierra and Lassen and some of those counties that are off to the east that aren't colored in? This service center would have to pick those up too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, oftentimes, those counties, they're serviced through like our telephone sessions. So we're able to still
Plumas
service them.
is a long ways away, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. And, like Dana, when we partnered with you last year to come up to Weed, I mean, we want to be able to do that annually and work with you and the stakeholders up in that area. So that's part of the strategic plan of each of the member centers of how we're going to do that and do outreach. So they also make annual trips to Lake Tahoe. They go up to Siskiyou County, to Chico, and then more frequently, they're in Fairfield as well.
And that's where partnering with our, union colleagues too is so helpful, because I do think, if there's someone at what are you, College of the Siskiyous, or,
College of Siskiyous.
and they could say, hey, we're gonna have CalSTRS people here, for the next, 50-mile radius, come one, come all, CalSTRS member, you know what I mean? If that's the kind of stuff that, because I do feel this sense of, I'm a LA girl, so I kind of live 5 minutes from Glendale Service Center, but I feel for folks, our members who are in more rural areas, and I kind of want to make sure they get the same, quality of information as the urban folks do. And so I do think trying to partner more with our faculty organizations and teacher organizations could be a good way to make sure we do that.
And in the past, that hasn't been a big focus, but again, with the strategic plan and the business plan that we rolled out at the beginning of this fiscal year, that's a big area of focus. And we're creating dashboards that will be reviewed on a quarterly basis, and we'll be having conversations with not only the management, but then with staff and all the member service centers as well, how we're doing.
They really appreciate it, Sandy.
They really
Thank
do.
you.
They love it. Harry?
I think it's been addressed, but you mentioned that Elk Grove, you had some good success in Elk Grove, working with Maggie and the management team there. So then the question begs is, like, how do you replicate that in other districts? And what are they doing? What's the communication? And who's communicating to whom? And then how do you replicate that? Seems like the logical next question.
And that's where that stakeholder engagement and really building those relationships is going to be key, because we see that with districts that we have that relationship with, and because we can send out email blasts and we do targeted email and marketing. I mean, we've done that very robustly over the past year. But when the district sends it out, when we work with them and we give them the template for those email blasts or flyers in the offices and different things like that, we see a much greater success when we go.
Right, so, you almost have to know who the key contact person is, right? Who's the connector?
Right.
And then who's the influencer, and then have them communicate on behalf. So where you can do that with management, the head of, usually superintendent or assistant superintendent, and then labor. So where there's really, identifying where there's positive, healthy labor management relationships where they can do, they can promote this together, I think would be the optimal.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, good.
Well, I think having Harry Keeler.
So Harry, how are you going to help us?
Well, that was going to be my next comment, and certainly we want to be helpful. The 3 electeds who hang out in these places a lot, want to do that.
That is a good question.
But I do think, you willing to do it?
No, how
You
can we
willing
be
to help
helpful,
out?
right? How can we be helpful? That's a really good question.
So
Yeah,
think
we'll work
about
on it.
that. Give us a homework assignment. We love homework. But we just had this part-time task force for the community college folks, and I was struck there at, we always say how few part-time community college faculty, when I give these talks and you say, how many of you in the room, there's 100 faculty, how many of you know which system you're in? It's like 5 people raise their hands. When that happens, this is why I love this committee, is that happens, that's a problem. That is a problem. And I know that's different because most full-time faculty and most full-time teachers are in DB, but for some of our, class employees that are in different categories, to not know which plan you're in, then how do you plan for retirement if you don't know what plan you're in? So to me, that's what motivates me to make sure we catch every single member that we have that's active right now, to make sure they understand, the implications of the plan they're in and that we reach them in whatever way we can. So any way we can help, please let us know and give us homework assignments. All right, I think we're good, Sandy.
Okay, so let's take a look at the state. So here on the state, we've identified in yellow the member center locations as well as the satellite offices that they do benefit planning sessions and workshops out of, and then the contract offices that we have remaining. So Humboldt really kind of covers that northern coast up. I think they have a new superintendent there. We went out and visited with him a couple months ago, and I think really he's anxious to leverage relationships. So I think we're going to be able to build some robust education up there. They've built a new state-of-the-art community center that's on the County Office of Education property. And so the specialist that works on the contract a third time, the remaining 2/3 she does district or County Office of Education work. I think we'll be able to leverage some relationships there, and he was also willing to talk to superintendents and stuff as far as the successes that we'll have working with them. So we're excited about that moving forward. And then in the Bay, we still have a contract with Santa Cruz, so we have some contract specialists there that can service that coast, Santa Cruz, Monterey area, and then Santa Barbara. So those contracts along that coastline we still have in place.
And Sandy, remind us for the board, when you say contract,
Contracts
mean?
with the County Office of Education.
So those are our staff or not our staff?
Are not our staff.
Right. Okay.
No.
So they're not our staff, which Karen, we've had kind of a past history with sometimes when it's not our staff manning those locations, that there have been variations of quality with education for our members. So how are we kind of ensuring in these sites now as we contract that quality of information is better than it once was?
So we still have the quality management program. So we send our quality management staff out to quality assure their sessions. So by sitting with them in their individual and group sessions, we also they're part of our quality control process where a number of their estimates are reviewed every single month, just like we do with our
Right.
state employees.
Like an audit almost, like looking
Yes.
at it just
Yes.
randomly. Okay.
And then the other two that we have in place still is Fresno and Kern. And this was in the report, but the COE contracts that we have, the number of FTEs that we have in each of those areas, that includes both benefit planning specialists as well as support staff. We are in the process of those that have support staff that are still scheduling for the offices, so Santa Cruz, Fresno, Kern, we schedule here for Santa Barbara and Humboldt. We're looking at taking that scheduling internal to HQ before the next contract period. I think it gives us a feel for kind of the services that are being offered, how many, what kind of capacity that we have there, if we need a greater demand, so we could manage those better when we schedule here as opposed to that being done. So we have had conversations with Santa Cruz. We will be going down to Fresno to meet with the new superintendent there at the end of the month and have a conversation about that. And then we did speak to Kern when we did a contract visit 2 months ago. So we feel that we have some opportunities in the Central Valley. I'm going to share with you in a bit some of the things that we've done as far as events and things like that. The contract staff do our individual sessions and the group sessions and workshops, but moving into the stakeholder engagement piece where we're going, really we feel that needs to be done by CalSTRS employees and not County Office of Education employees. So you can see the demographics there, and I think many of you may know that the Central Valley was one of the initial sites for a member service center. So we are looking at and exploring some opportunities to add state staff in this area. So we're just kind of beginning
Yeah, the Central Valley's growing.
thoughts around that.
Sandy, I've got Dana with a question.
So Sandy, this has been something that has been real important to me since I've been on the board. I am so thankful that we've moved in this direction where the vast majority of our members are actually meeting with CalSTRS employees, and that we have control and quality control. I think that's very important. I know how brutal it was when various county offices of education, when our members are just used to having somebody come to them. It was a lot easier when there was somebody working out of Shasta County. For those members in the north to just go to Reading, or they would actually, venture out too. And I know that we caught a lot of flack from that, but I think it's a tremendous service that we're actually doing our members. And we're working through a lot of ways to do that. I think that it's really important that we take a look at Kern and Fresno. There's a lot of people there. And if we can serve them better by having better counseling, I think we absolutely need to. That would only leave us with 3 counties.
Right.
And as far as I know, we haven't had a whole lot of problem with it, what's going on in those counties. So, we're gonna knock on wood. I do have concerns though with your map, or I don't have concerns with the map, but I think we need to really pay attention to the configuration. Inyo and Mono are on the backside of the Sierra. They're not gonna be able to go to Fresno very easily. Or our
Winter.
or our people aren't gonna be able to go to them. So it might be easier to send somebody up from Riverside up that 395 corridor, just so.
Okay.
So sometimes it's easy
That's
to
what
look
you
at
were
map and not
asking
look at
about
the
then earlier.
topography and how
He's
much
talking about
that,
just reconfiguring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, and have it
Yeah.
Inyo and Mono be with the
Riverside.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would be easier for everybody all the way around.
That's one of the topics that the team spends a lot of time talking about, because that Central Valley region is quite large.
Yeah.
And just to your point, there's a lot of different topography to take into account. So what's kind of the best strategy
Absolutely.
for staffing that? Those are the kinds of conversations that we're having.
Thanks.
I love that area, it's beautiful. Great,
Okay.
yeah.
So, the use of technology. So we continue to offer our benefit planning sessions by telephone. They are very popular. We now have individuals in every member service center are doing telephone sessions as well, so they're adding telephone sessions to their calendar. And we continue to explore looking at FaceTime and different things like that in that environment, but we want to make sure it's a secure environment. So we will continue to explore opportunities around that. I will say that we don't get a lot of requests for people scheduling sessions,
I'm not surprised right now.
asking for it. But we do continue to revisit that and making,
I think it's just an arena. I know I've been kind of bugging about this, like the chat ability, or even like a group counseling session through FaceTime or whatever. I don't know. Jack knows this stuff. The enterprise stuff where you can do video conferencing with like 5 people. I've seen it with friends of mine that work in tech. You can have these conference calls, and I know security is an issue, but I do think. I know, for my colleague, sort of the 45 and under crowd, I definitely know that if I promoted something that there's a lot of members, the younger members that we're trying to access on the front end, that would be interested in that. Because I'm so used to chatting with AT&T instead of calling AT&T, like chatting, having the chatting function. So I do think it's just something that, like anything, having different modalities for our members to contact us is great. And as much as we can kind of teaching my 83-year-old mom to text, it's like, just helping folks, adapt to new things, but still giving them options for what they feel most comfortable. Because I know most people, even, my members are always saying, I just want to go to Glendale and see a person and hand the paper to them. And I totally get that. But I would love to see us just develop a deeper toolkit in terms of modalities.
we're working on it.
Yep.
And we also understand that our members would like to receive
Wait,
notifications.
sorry, Sandy, there's like 3 people. I was
I'm
so
sorry.
excited about what I was saying, and I'm chairing this meeting, so there's other people. Karen, sorry, Karen.
Okay.
It's okay, it's late in the day.
All right. I'm looking on page 10 of this, the retirement readiness, and then this delivery system, what does the texting look like? And you said recent, so how recent was it? And then, how do the members know that this exists?
Well, it doesn't yet.
Okay,
So, I mean, we understand that our members would like to receive notifications and appointment reminders through text messaging. So we've begun to explore using our current email software, which is that GovDelivery, opportunities for texting services. So currently, we are working with Technology Services on a long-term texting solution. And we'll see what we can.
So you get a text, Karen, saying,
What do
have
you-
you signed up for a
Right.
beneficiary?
Yeah,
for you?
that's
You
right,
got-
that's
have you
right. We can
done
do
that,
messages
Ms.
like that.
Yamamoto? And you
Look at your
say,
progress
oh,
report.
I gotta open my
okay.
progress
So you
report.
get the progress report, or however you're gonna do that. So a text message will come to the member?
Right.
Is that what the
your cell
anticipation
phone.
is?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then the secure site, and then the messaging part of it?
So what we would like for reminders, just like your dentist sends it out or your eye doctor, and we want two-way texting. So if we send out a reminder saying, you're registered to come to your benefit planning session, blah, 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 what day, are you
confirm.
going to attend, and then text back 1, 2 for yes or no. And so that then we can confirm
Okay.
that they will, and same thing with our workshops and our group planning sessions.
Okay.
And then also having the ability to be able to text out things like our publications and different things like that. So to your point, like we could send reminders, have you done this or have you done that?
Okay.
And we could text,
And that's all predicated on the phone number that you have for us?
and they would have to sign up
Okay.
to be able to do that. So they would have to give us permission and the phone number that they would want texting services to go to.
Okay, so I guess on another technology question then, if, I've heard about this thing called Pension Solution Project.
Oh, that? What might
That
that
tiny
be?
little thing?
So how does this fit in with that, or does it, or is it independent? or
Well, it
how does that
could,
work?
because in working with this, we would like to see integration with Pension Solution with the texting services that we end up procuring.
Okay.
I think Ashish
Ashish
wants
wants
That
it.
might be a while down the road.
Ashish
It will
wants
be
to
a
chime
while
in
down
on
the
that.
road.
So whatever I think Sandy is saying, this is in the part of our phase 4 of the customer
Phase
service,
4?
the mobile device
okay.
integration. So that will part of that one later
Okay.
on the phase.
Okay,
So it will be a few years down the road.
few
but-
years down the road.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's one of the goals then. So right now you can operate independently on this GovDelivery.
That's what we're exploring, yes.
Yeah.
Format.
We haven't yet.
No,
That's
but I
the
mean,
dream, but yeah.
yeah, that was clear that it's not ready yet, but,
And this one is a very powerful tool for us, that if you are reading your text, you are checking your email, we know that, okay, you didn't read, it's going your junk mail, you never open. So this will provide the
Absolutely.
metrics.
Yeah, it gives us more metrics on how we're engaging with our members. That's great. Dana?
Thanks, Ashish.
So it's like-
Thanks, Ashish.
I'm thinking, wow, we shouldn't have started texting, because then I started thinking, oh, God, I'm NAACP, I get these quizzes during
Well, I
Black
like it
History
for
Month
voting.
on my
I got it for
text. and I-
voting. Like,
and-
have you
yeah,
voted yet? It's
The
election
HCR, so anyhow,
Let's
I think
go.
there's a lot of potential with texting. I actually got in line to, and we were talking about Plumas County earlier. There's 2 main communities within Plumas County, and they're like over an hour apart. When they have their local union chapter meetings, they don't get together. They actually do it through a thing they call Polycom. And so the people that are at this high school or in this town all get together, and the people that are in this town, they all get together. And they actually hold a meeting through this Polycom thing, because they do long-distance learning with our high school students for upper level math and things like that, their AP classes that they can't get in town. So I think that there are ways that we could do at least workshops and create a greater awareness, and then we wouldn't have to worry so much about the security. But then that's allowing us to tell them, you can call, we can do this, we're gonna be there at a certain time. So I think if we can explore with possibly the county superintendents in some of those remote areas, they might have some suggestions for us to be able to do things long distance wise that that we haven't even thought of yet.
Good point, thank you.
Good. Mr. Keeley?
And then,
So I just, I
sorry.
agree with just about everything that's been said. And I'm confident that the team is thinking this way. I suspect that there will come a time, and it may or may not be in my lifetime, where the teachers of the state of California will no longer want paper, will no longer drive to a meeting, will no longer pick up the phone to speak to you. The way in which the way media is communicated, how the younger generation accesses content and information now is radically different than it was 5 years ago. It doesn't look like anything that it did 20 years ago. And that's just going to, I think, change. How it's going to change, I don't know. And I don't know when the tipping point's going to be, but there will be a tipping point. And I think we have to be ready for it. And your team is smart enough to figure out how to allocate. We don't want to actually spend a lot of money on that at this point, but there will come a time where human capital and financial capital will have to be, I think, redirected and redeployed and maximize and leverage technology to deliver benefits and services and information to our members in a way that is radically different than the way it's done today. I don't know when that's going to be, but it will happen. I mean, when was the last time people walked into a bank? I was in one recently. It was the first time in months.
I was just in one last week.
I mean,
Dana, you're old school.
right? And
No
if, you know, I look at my 8 and 10-year-old daughters and how they consume media and content and information, how they get information. So I know we're thinking that way, and I know we're not going to plow a lot of it. You're smart enough to figure out.
Yeah.
But I think it's our responsibility to think about what the future's going to look like.
Alexa, explain my defined
Which is, I
benefit
think, also
pension
part of
to
our-
me. Explain CalSTRS defined benefit pension to me.
The building
And
tomorrow,
that's-
to talk
that's
about the
what's happening.
building and workspace, it's all, I think, part of a bigger artificial intelligence and the number of investment staff people that we have here and the impact that artificial
Fahrenheit
intelligence is gonna have.
451.
So, bigger conversation, but certainly
Very
part of
interesting.
what you're doing.
Back to you, Sandy, after that little.
And then the webinars. So we have conducted a number of webinars. They are becoming more popular. We just did 2 during National Retirement Security Week, and by far, it was the best turnout that we've had. Still not high. We had, in each of them, well over 200 people register, but those that logged in, we had between 60 and 80 on each one. And so, but far better than years in the past. So that's been exciting as we move in that direction. Okay, so some of the fun things that we did. So again, I mean, we continue to market. I think some of you have probably gotten a number of our emails, but we did partner with CTA this past year and developed a leaflet. They were asking for something to hand out, and really we see a need to kind of give more guidance to our members and action steps. So we developed this leaflet that has been very successful. We've had to actually print it 4 times now in large print batches because people are really liking it. And so we're hoping that it will help guide some action for our members. We've broken it into the 3 career stages, so the early career, mid-career, and near retirement, and it breaks down some action steps for people to do. So
Is that available on the website or something so people could download and print it off themselves?
So
or-
we're in the process of trying to make it interactive so that we can have links on this, and so we haven't gotten to that point yet. We do have hard copies, yeah, and they are in all the member service centers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
And then some of the events that we did this past year, and this is the 4th year that we've done Financial Awareness Day. We're at all the member service centers. We do a number of different workshops. This too is really promoting financial literacy and participation in the Pension 2 program. And each year it becomes more robust with more attendees, and so we've been really excited about that. And then for the first time this year, we did a Saturday event, which was a new member day. And we really focused on trying to get members in within that first 2 years. Then we kind of branched to the first 5 years. But once it got out on the website, you can see the age breakdown and demographics. But we did have a very good turnout. 301 members attended. So 201 actually went on the website and pre-registered for workshops, and we had 100 walk-ins come in, and then you can see the breakdown of the 16 workshops that we did. And at each of these, we had a good showing in capturing Pension 2 enrollments. So that was exciting.
Very cool.
So we'll continue to do these. The Financial Awareness Day is the end of July, so we try to get the teachers when they've kind of come back from vacations, but before they go back to school. And then the new member day, like I said, we did on a Saturday. And then I'm going to brag.
As you should.
Yeah. So we did earn a Eddie Award for the Pension 2 program this past year for our member education and growth in the program, as well as the 403B Compare website. We a Pension Investments Excellence and Innovation Award, as well as a Government Experience Award. So we're very proud of that. And I know you've all seen the website, and we're very proud of the traffic that it's garnering and people going on and registering accounts. And so
Love that website.
we're happy about that. And that's all I have, unless any of you have any other questions for me.
I can't believe it, but I don't see any other questions from any of our committee members, so I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you, Sandy. That was
thank
really
you.
informative. I appreciate that. Okay, thanks, Sandra. Sandy, Elisa, we've got the 2017 Annual Member Survey. Lisa Dobbins. I always love this. I love hearing about what our members think of us.
No, it, all right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is the clicker. Oop, yep, it is. I haven't used this one before. Okay, hello.
Hi.
Thank you for the opportunity to get to share the results from this study again this year. As you all know, we conduct this study every year, and I have been lucky enough to be the one to get to share the results with you for the past couple of years. This research is conducted in partnership with Thomas Ferris, and the purpose of the study is really to gain insight into our members' experience. And I would say maybe over the past 5 or 6 years, the study has grown from a more traditional satisfaction study to a bigger research program where we're looking at additional topics like engagement and retirement preparedness, and we've taken an in-depth look at our interactions and so on. So what I've got for you is, I think, as many as 50 slides, but well, you can click through them pretty quickly, and we can look at the highlights, and I can answer any questions you have, and just kind of walk through what we're finding on the different topics. A few details about the research itself. It's an electronic survey. We administered this survey to close to 34,000 members. We pull a sample of our members, stratified random samples, so that we get a representative sample of our membership so that we can be confident in the results. We heard back from just under 1,900 members, and that works out to be about a 5% response rate, which is quite typical in an electronic survey arena. We expect about 5%, so that's just fine. And before I click in and start walking you through the data, I want to say appropriate appreciation for everyone who worked on this project. There's now a team of individuals, a team of researchers behind all of this. Specifically, I want to thank Jay Thomas, who's our consultant, Michael Whitehead, who is the lead researcher, and Lisa Williams produced the slides that you're going to see today. And everyone, I think, did a really good job. So hopefully you like it. Okay, first slide, just key points, takeaways from the survey. What you're going to see, some in the presentation and some in the board report itself, is a fair amount of stability in our scores. Year over, the scores tend to be fairly stable, and where you see them bumping around, they tend to kind of go up and down a little bumpy, but we're not seeing downward trends even when we're seeing significant changes. Also, and I think this comes out more in the report itself, we see a little bit lower scores trending in the service performance, and those are measures like timeliness of responses and thoroughness and so on, than we do in staff performance. And those measures focus on courteousness and feeling like a staff person cares about the member. And we can look at that when we get into it. All right, the first topic, and I've got probably a handful of slides on this, overall satisfaction. So we ask our members, the first thing in the survey, we ask members their level of satisfaction with CalSTRS overall. It's a global measurement. And the majority of members report high satisfaction, and those are scores of 6 or 7 on a 7-point scale. We traditionally report top 2 box, so the percentages that you see are going to be reflective of that. So that 64% indicates the percentage of members who said that they were satisfied or completely satisfied with CalSTRS overall. Next, we have the year-over trend, and as I mentioned, you're going to see some ups and downs, but overall, and I always say with trend lines, I like to stand back a little bit or hold the page a bit away from me and look at the trend line. Overall, that's a very stable number, and that's good news. We want solid performance around delivering products and services and customer service and everything that rolls up into satisfaction overall. We want that to be a stable thing with our members. This is the same score broken out by age decile. And the pattern that you see in this data is very typical of member data in terms of reporting on satisfaction with products and services and customer service. We typically, traditionally see a lower percent of younger members reporting in those high satisfaction ranges. And as members get older, approach retirement, and enter retirement, we see those numbers go up. And it's consistent with what we know about members' experience. As members get closer to retirement, they tend to interact with CalSTRS more, and overall, those interactions tend to be very positive. We spent some extra effort. We focused on those younger members this year. We really wanted to dig in and understand what's happening with those scores. We wanted to kind of confirm this theory that, is it just that it's those increased interactions that change. So what we did is we looked at the scores themselves, and we also looked at comments. Survey respondents immediately after providing the score on this survey item have an opportunity to explain, why did you assign that particular score? And what we found in looking at the scores themselves is that younger active members are not dissatisfied, they're neutral. So they're not giving us low scores, they're just giving us neutral scores. And when
Neutral just mean like they don't care,
They don't know.
or they don't know they should care. You know what I mean? Like neutral just, what does neutral mean?
Yes, great question. And so what it means literally is that they assigned a 3, 4, or 5 when they click the box on the survey, which is a very mid-range score. And their comments explained what that meant. And what their comments told us, so every comment was read, and these get read every year, but I think that they were themed with a little more intention this year to try and kind of pull apart what was happening. What was found is that those neutral ratings are really explained with the I don't know CalSTRS and I don't understand my CalSTRS benefits. And I have, I think, 3 slides that give you quotes. So these are direct quotes from those comments. So a 20 to 29-year-old said, CalSTRS is difficult to understand as a new teacher. There are no mentors or people dedicated to onboarding, it seems. Okay?
I feel like the 20 to 29-year-olds I know just don't know CalSTRS even exist.
What do you mean she's
Okay.
never been
Like, they're
contacted by
just in this
CalSTRS?
classrooms, you know? They're just, so that's just my anecdotal experience, but,
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of how I was until I met people, was involved, and then they're like, what does CalSTRS stand for? So I feel like it's a very, like zero knowledge about you even have this benefit.
So this is consistent with your experience and what you see other young educators' experience would be. We, myself and a couple of the research team attended a new employee orientation because there's nothing like seeing it firsthand, and I would
Seeing that
agree.
look.
People were clamoring for information, incredibly excited to hear about CalSTRS, but came to that orientation really not understanding at all. They didn't come with any knowledge or expectations. They were kind of blank about this topic. Okay, here's the quote from one 30 to 39-year-old. I've never been contacted in any way by CalSTRS. I have no idea what my benefits actually consist of. And a 40 to 49-year-old said, I haven't had a chance to really look at what CalSTRS has available for me. I hope that when I decide to retire, I will be okay financially. So we see this pattern, and we saw it over and over. These were not the only quotes. It was very consistent. It was prevalent throughout this particular age range, those under 50 years old. Older active members also gave neutral ratings, and when we look at the data, we try to really understand, and we try to understand, I would say, big picture. So we try to understand everything so we're not taking things out of context. So what I want to share with you is that those older active members who also gave neutral ratings, what their explanations were, sometimes they didn't know CalSTRS, but sometimes they were having experiences that they felt neutral about. They might have tried to get into a group session and had a little bit difficulty scheduling, or they might have received information that they felt was too general and not specific enough for their individual situation. So there was a bit of a shift in the comments as we got to older than 49 years old. Does that make sense?
This demo, I've had 3 people this week, because this is kind of my people in this demo here. And I had one of my dearest friends who knows I'm on this board and everything. He's like, you know, is there a way I can get money out of my CalSTRS to, like, he's looking at houses, or he's just stressing about money in Los Angeles, living in LA, and he's just like, is there any way I can get money out of my CalSTRS? I'm like,
Don't
Dan,
do it.
no, I've talked to you about, I mean, I feel like so even people that are, I feel like close to people who know stuff about this, this demo it's more about, like, kind of, it's not about saving for retirement, it's about buying a house or being able to afford just living in their area, so.
Very life stage
Very much.
specific, and as our priorities shift.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to change topics and move on to member interaction with CalSTRS. And as I said, this research study covers a lot of different topics, but we've tried to put it together so that it sort of tells a story and makes sense in a reasonable way. Talking about member interactions first, because we want to address that group of people who don't know or don't understand their benefits. And one way to do this is by looking at how we're interacting with them. We track our interactions very carefully. We have a high commitment to engaging our members. So we have data on it, and I'm going to show you a little bit of it. The first thing is just a question about how are our members interacting with us. And what we gave survey respondents an opportunity to do was they had an opportunity to indicate any way that they had had an interaction with us in the past year. And 92% of the respondents had interacted with us in one of these 3 ways. These were the 3 top interaction modalities: reading the newsletter, visiting the .com, or visiting My CalSTRS. And there's a lot of positive about that. There's a lot of efficiency through electronic communication. I think when we start thinking about engaging our members, forming relationships with them, really having them get to know us, multiple modalities are probably quite important, as was already discussed in the earlier.
Texting.
Yeah.
Texting at my CalSTRS or stuff like that, yeah. My friends would do that.
This slide just hits on the point that interactions are important. Those members who reported interacting with us, and this is interacting with us in any way. They might have had just visited us electronically, they might have come into a member service center. Any way counted as an interaction. If they had interacted, they were much more likely to report high levels of satisfaction compared to those who had had no interaction in the past year. I went to a conference last year, and I don't have the reference, so please don't ask me to find it. But what was discussed was that the perfect number of interactions every year was 3.6. So somebody had, and I think some it was said as a joke, but some it was said with a fair amount of seriousness. We don't want to over bother people and get tuned out, but you do need multiple interactions, and the research says multiple interactions through multiple modalities get the most attention. So clearly, CalSTRS is committed to interacting with our members. I have a few examples of interactions that have happened. I'm going to click through them quickly because Sandy touched on them. This was the flyer from the new member workshop that she mentioned that was conducted in September on a Saturday that had such a positive response. I mentioned that I went to the new employee orientation. We handed out flyers there. People were so excited about this event. It was nice to see the energy that it was generating. CalSTRS and You is a group session that is specifically focused on reaching members 44 and younger, that younger age demographic. And then the pamphlet that Sandy mentioned that's been produced, Your Retirement Plan, that really has life stage specific information with specific, like there's a specific column there directed at new educators. And it's a really nice, like the handout, it's just beautiful. One way that we track kind of the performance of the different initiatives that we undertake is to evaluate, how aware are our members. So as you know, there's been a huge push to communicate and increase awareness around Pension II. We've been tracking awareness of Pension II in this survey for a number of years, and what you can see is that since 2013, awareness has more than doubled. So that's pretty good indication that we're getting good, our members are listening to our messages. All right, now jumping to the next topic, staff and service performance measures. These are the measures that I mentioned that evaluate how our staff are delivering and how the products and services are meeting the needs of our members. On the survey, what we do is we ask survey respondents, did you have an interaction with staff? And then only those who indicated that they have had an interaction are asked the further questions. So it's a skip pattern. If you haven't had an interaction, you don't answer these questions, so we keep the data appropriate. 21% of respondents said that they had had an interaction with staff. And in general, the people who had had interactions say that CalSTRS is serving them very well. We have two sets of performance measures. One is on service, measures things like timeliness. The top performing item in this set was CalSTRS responded to my inquiry in a timely manner. And what you see there is 72% of members who answered this question agreed or strongly agreed that this was occurring for them. The lowest item in this set was information from multiple CalSTRS sources was consistent. I want to mention, because I think when people look at this item, they often think, wow, did they read one thing in one place and then go somewhere else and hear a different story? We do not think that that is the case. What we think is that a lot of our publications and a lot of the information we produce is produced at a general level to be applicable to everybody. And then when an individual needs to get their specific information, sometimes it's a little different than the general information, and it's just due to the individual nature of each person's situation. The second set of items are staff performance measures, and these measures things like courtesy and having a caring attitude. We score really highly in these areas. The single highest performing item in this set is staff was courteous, with 85% of those responding agreeing or strongly agreeing. And the lowest performing item was staff informed me of additional relevant information. What we have found with this item over time is that often a member would have no idea if they had been provided additional relevant information because it's done in kind of a transparent way. So take the 71% as you wish. Next topic, jumping along, we assess member engagement. And I think the thing to note about member engagement before we get in and look at the data is it's a higher standard than satisfaction, and that's by design. Member engagement measures not only members' rational assessment of our products and services, it also measures emotional attachment to CalSTRS as an organization. We are interested in this particular measurement because research says that when you have engaged customers, members in our cases, that they are more likely to provide positive word-of-mouth recommendations, they're more likely to try new products, they're more likely to be somewhat forgiving of little bumps along the road in terms of the relationship. So it's an important aspect of forming a relationship with our members. This year, the percentage of respondents engaged is 54%, and this number is very stable across the years that we've been measuring it. I'm often asked, what is the biggest driver of member engagement? And the answer consistently across many research studies is having engaged employees, because employees are really the ones that form the relationships with customers or members. So around engagement, I've got similar slides. I told you the pattern in the data tends to be similar. Younger members, not as many fall into that engaged category, and as individuals approach retirement, we see the percentage increase. And clearly, there's an opportunity there in the younger members, and we do have the efforts underway and a very clear focus on making sure that we reach these individuals in the best ways possible. The engagement score is a composite score. There's 15 items that are rolled up to create the engagement number. And what I've presented here are the top 3 engagement attributes. I think it's something that we can be proud of as an organization, that the number 1 engagement attribute is CalSTRS is an organization I can trust, followed by CalSTRS shows me respect and cares about members like me. Final category is retirement preparedness. So this is a newer section of this research study, and the next couple of slides present information that we're assessing to try to evaluate retirement preparedness. And we do this because retirement preparedness really fits in with our mission of securing our members' financial future. The first numbers that I have for you are the percentage of members who are aware that they may need to address a retirement income gap. are you aware that your DB alone may not be sufficient to meet your financial needs in retirement? And this shows the percentages of members who report that they're aware. We look at those top two, the percentage of individuals who indicate that they're either aware or very aware of this, 60%. We have the majority of members falling into this category. One thing that we are constantly trying to understand our relationships, and against all this data, we always try to push engagement against it and say, is this a lever, or is there a relationship here? Engaged members are more aware of their retirement income gaps. So if you're engaged, you're more likely to say that you're aware. We're also trying to understand factors that relate to members being aware. So we understand that engagement is about the relationship, and it probably really sets up our members to receive our messages, but it may not be the thing, and it's certainly not the only thing that moves individuals to being prepared and taking action, actually doing things. So we now have a set of questions on the survey that ask members about what they're doing. And what we ask them are what we think are initial steps. Have you started to plan? Are you thinking about retirement? Do you understand? We ask them, the first question we ask is, have you estimated your expected defined benefit? 48% of respondents said that they had. And of those 48% who said that they had estimated their DB expected in retirement, that subset we asked, well, have you estimated your financial needs in retirement, right? Kind of stepping them through things. So of those who had estimated their DB, the subset, most of them, 8 of 10, said yes, they had also estimated their income that they expected to need in retirement. Then of that subset, so if they'd estimated both their defined benefit and if they had estimated their finances that they would be needing in retirement, we said, is your DB alone going to be enough? Only 34% said yes, they expect their DB alone to be enough. We know that higher engagement levels positively relate to this, and this is the slide that does that breakout. So, right, you've got that, let's go back here, where only 34% say yes. If you're engaged, 48% say yes. So the engagement moves it some, almost to a 50-50 split. For those who are neutral or disengaged, the numbers are quite a bit lower in terms of those who are saying yes. Only 20% of those who are neutral or 14% of those who are disengaged. That's what I have in terms of data. I have a little bit of preliminary information to share with you if, I think we're doing okay on time. Summary, right? Our performance measures overall are stable. There have been some ups and downs. I can speak to that if you have interest. Member interactions clearly matter. We know that. We're focused on it. I think we're putting a lot of effort into that. Member awareness, I think it's a really important topic. I'm not the only one that has spoken about this today. More members now know about Pension II, and the majority of members are aware of a potential retirement income gap. I'd like to tell you a little bit about things that we are looking at. We're trying to kind of push and really understand and find the variables that relate to retirement preparedness. One interesting finding, so this is all preliminary research, and you'll probably get to hear more about it in February when we bring you the retirement readiness assessment results. But one preliminary finding is just differences between male and females. So females rate themselves as being less confident of their security in retirement. And this is consistent with everything that's published. It's also consistent with things that we know about the workforce, right? So females in general are more likely to maybe work part-time or take time off or have shorter periods in the labor force. Other things that we found, in general, members who are expecting their DB to be a smaller percent of their retirement income, those people are saving more. So that's a good balance. And then just I think this is a very interesting finding. I can't quite tell you yet exactly what it means. I may never be able to tell you exactly what it means. But we found that single women who have never been married are saving more for retirement than single men who have never been married. So that may tie back to that confidence, right?
What are all those single guys doing with that money?
I'm sorry?
They're spending on motorcycles or something? Motorcycles? and cars?
There you go.
I'm not
Yeah,
going to.
don't touch that one.
Yeah, I'm not commenting. But these are the things that we are trying to understand, that we're starting to look at. I think we have over 100 variables where there's this huge net of data now that we have that we can really just start looking at the relationships, trying to understand. And the point of understanding is really then being able to do something with it, inform, make our products and services better, make our interactions more effective, and so on. All right?
Interesting stuff.
Questions?
I've got a couple questions here. Dana?
You can go ahead and start if you want.
Oh, no, I was saying.
So, we email these surveys to our members, so clearly we know who they went to. So are we doing anything to follow up with and maybe it's a generational change, but are we sending anything out to follow up with them if they're telling us, I don't know anything about CalSTRS? We've captured the information, are we gonna utilize it? I guess is what I'm looking at. And if we're not gonna flip something back to them, if there's not a check that triggers something back to them, can we put something on the survey that says, is there anything on this survey you'd like more information about? Can we get a hold of you? And then they could enter information, then they volunteered it, and we can push information out? Or is there any way that we can capture some of that?
So all good ideas. At the end of the survey, and Michael's still in the audience, he can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that at the end of the survey, we produce links so that people can go and get more information on the different topics. So yes, we try to close that loop. I think that what we tell individuals now at the front of the survey is how to contact us if they need to, if they want to have some interaction, because honestly, there's quite a delay from the data collection to the really being able to work with it. There's just, it's a big amount of information, and just processing it takes time. And we were concerned at one point, people did request, please get back to us, and we felt concerned about the delay in time just with the logistics of doing that. So we tried to preemptively ask, or preemptively tell people, if you want us to contact you, or you want to contact us, here's the best way to do it. It's interesting that you mention, kind of flipping back with these people. We are in very preliminary, as in this afternoon, trying to design a study that says, okay, if people don't know or understand us, can we do some research with a communication to that population and see if we can move them on that? And what would that communication look like? What does it need to do? Of course, there are efforts in the organization preemptively trying to have that not be the case. We want our members to know and understand us. So we're already actively involved, but in terms of the research, we're just now discussing, okay, how how can we best proceed, that we might be able to get some information about kind of the best intervention.
So then would you ever consider, if we front-loaded, you can get more information, have we ever considered going back and seeing if any of those people did?
I'm not sure I quite understand the question.
So we have somebody that says they don't know anything about CalSTRS, but we front-loaded it to say, if you want to know more, this is how you need to contact. Have we ever thought about going back and saying, did that information that we gave you cause you to go, and do you feel differently now?
I don't know.
And would that even be useful?
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if we track, I don't know, do you know, Michael? Do we track the hits off this survey, or can we do that from what people, how people proceed from the survey if they click on any of the links?
So there's two challenges here. One is that we say
Well, just tracking the hits off the links, that's a good idea.
Sorry. It's like digging school, Michael, you gotta come to the front of the class.
there's two challenges. One, that the surveys are confidential, which kind of indicate that
Right.
we wouldn't be doing
That's
that.
why they would have to volunteer the information,
And
right?
the second is the way the system is now, we would have to do everything manually to go back and track by client IDs who may have contacted us through START or something, which we
Okay.
don't have access to.
Okay,
But, I mean, the work could be done to do it.
thank you.
We've talked about creating like a tracking study where you tell people up front, hey, would you like to be part of this ongoing research?
Right.
We'll contact you from time to time and kind of follow and have a time series. And, you know, there's lots of great ideas in just trying to figure out and resources and making it all happen.
Right. Joy?
Thank you. Thanks, Alyssa. This survey is always interesting, and the way that you slice and dice the numbers to help us really hone in on, the differences in terms of, age or experiences, it's really helpful. I wondered if I don't know if we already do this or if we've thought about giving members the option of doing sort of like the quick 1-minute survey after they've had an interaction with us. I call a customer service agent to get my flight rebooked, and they automatically send me to a 30-second, just, one question about whether, I would hire the customer service agent I just talked to, or did that person just resolve my question? Is that something we do, or have we thought about it?
Well, let me tell you what we do, and let me tell you what theoretically is on the horizon. So we don't have the automatic, turnaround because of technology, and it may be coming at some future point in some future phase with Pension Solution. It's been discussed, and I believe that the system has that capability. What we currently do with we call them our point of service surveys, and we do a handful of those. And we batch the people who are having interactions, and we get the emails on a monthly basis, and we turn the survey around to those individuals. And we don't present the outcomes of that research here. They're used kind of to direct more operations. But we actually do it on a monthly basis, and the business areas take their data. Their data gets themed in a similar way to what you've heard about today. And the data is very rich, and I think very much used in the organization to drive direction, and a lot of times it's to give really positive feedback. Our members say such nice things about our staff, and honestly, I feel like our staff work very hard. And hearing, like, sometimes people, sometimes people, right, so many people in the building don't have any direct contact, but what they do matters so much. And then you having that feedback from the survey of, you made a difference in my life. It's really very nice, and then that engages our employees and so on and so on.
Great. Andrew, did you want to comment?
Yeah, we will be adding that capability into our contact center technology as we move forward with implementing both Pension Solution and as we enhance and upgrade our contact center telephony technology.
Right, just because I think, whether the feedback is constructive improvement or really positive feedback. I'm sure it's much more of the latter. But getting the real-time feedback and getting the, when you get a survey once a year, it's, 'cause sometimes it can be hard to think back on how did I feel or what was my experience like. But I think that's neat, and it really helps feed into just operational improvements for your teams. So that's great. Thank you.
And catching them while they're having contact with us, you know? So they have contact with you for this thing, and then you can actually catch them, right? Yeah, I really like that idea.
And just so that you know, at the end of the year with this annual data, we use it sort of as a baseline, and then we press all that point of service survey data against it, and then we do an across the organization comparison. So it's a really pretty robust system, given what we have at this point for technology and ability to tie things together.
Karen?
Just a quick one. Typically, how long does it take to complete the survey?
I think that we tell people.
Do you say that at the beginning of the dialogue?
Yes, we absolutely do, and it's a little bit long. The survey is a little bit long, and I've got it here. Okay, Michael's telling me
10
that we tell
minutes?
people that it's
Okay.
going to take them about
Like
10
an average
minutes.
of 10 minutes? Okay.
And so that's an estimate on, when you're taking an electronic survey.
Right.
On average, people click about 10 clicks per minute, give or take. And so 10 minutes, you would be
My
able,
mom's not so good with the clicker, with the mouse.
I'm
I
sorry?
said my mom's not so good with, we were just doing this the other day, and
And
so I would
just-
imagine it depends on.
I was just wondering how many of them actually stop and then go to the calculator so they can go say, yes, I've looked at how much.
Well, that would be great impact of a survey.
Well, yeah, exactly, motivate them.
Absolutely.
Great.
And then, as another question, if they don't finish it within that 10 minutes and say they get interrupted, is it saved, or do they have to start all over, or how does that work?
I'm gonna lean on
looking at
Michael and
Michael
ask
like-
him again. Can they save and return?
So I believe it allows them to come back within 2 weeks and pick up where they
Wow.
left off.
Okay, good.
Great.
And is there any form of paper version sent out?
Great question. I think approximately 6 years ago, prior to 6 years ago, we were doing all paper surveying. And, we have a commitment to sustainability
Right.
and resources, not just the paper, but paper surveying, there's a
So
lot
the-
involved with it.
Right.
We actually did a study, we did a parallel study on the transition year where we did half of the surveying paper and half of the surveying electronically. And we felt like we were reaching our members and getting, and hearing from a representative respondent group. So all age groups and so on were responding. We also did a statistical comparison of what each group in the two different formats was telling us, and we found no statistical difference between those two samples.
Okay, and then the age group, if they're like enjoying retirement and did you get more responses in the electronic version?
We actually get our highest response rates from the older and retired members. I think some because they are more engaged, they also probably are spending more time
Well, they have more time,
to
right?
to focus on these sort of things. So yes, they were
Spoken like a retired teacher, right?
the older age deciles and the retired groups. So we do the stratified random sample, and what we wind up doing is we weight the respondents back to be representative of the membership. So we wind up overweighting the younger respondents because we hear from fewer of them, and to make it representative, we never have to do that with the older groups.
Good, thank you.
Great. Dana?
So that whole line of questioning, when do we send it out?
Usually in January, and we do that kind of as a marker, partly as a marker, so we ask teachers to reflect on the calendar year. We've recently discussed, is that the best marker? Do teachers usually think of years in terms of the teaching year? So we can discuss the date of launch. Some of the launch date also has to do with preparing this report and trying to get everything ready. I believe that I used to come to a board meeting earlier in the year. Sometimes like they fell in the summer. So we tried to get everything timed correctly.
But I actually think January is probably a pretty good time. Start of school, end of school, into grading periods, we get very myopic. And so I think that you would have even less responses if it was during that time period. So even if we're asking for a calendar year as opposed to a school year, really don't think that matters as much as hitting the right spot during the year.
Right.
That people will spend the time to go through something, even if it's not going to take them days to do it.
We actually look at the school calendars and try to judge when school will be back in session. We try to avoid launching over any holiday. The timing is really critical. Along the 2 weeks that the survey is in the field, we send multiple reminders, and we do what we can to get people to participate.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, you have
I hope so too.
Yeah, I'd be able to make sure that happens.
thanks, Alicia.
We actually have that power. I'm not sure it would be a completely random sample at that point.
It wouldn't be a random sample, so we don't want to mess with the researchers.
We'll be random in our answers.
And I do want to just commend your team. I've really appreciated the research that we've asked. I know Tom Buffalo and other members of the team. I'm really excited about how we're beefing up our research because I think it really does inform decisions that we're making moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
helpful.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right. Andrew, Executive Office report. What you got?
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to catch up on a couple of items that the committee had asked questions about in the July meeting. So first, wanted to clarify a misstatement that I made about the contact center. So this was in a conversation where we were talking about, do members get a sense of how long they have to wait when they call in? And during high volume periods, the answer is yes. So I misspoke, and that technology is available. So if members call and there's a long wait, they will know approximately how long that wait is, and then they have the opportunity to ask for a callback. Also, on the RPR, Joy, you had asked questions about demographics for members who have opted out of that electronic communication. It's a little higher than I thought. So far, we have had 55,000 members opt out of electronic.
55,000.
Yes, and ask for paper. I have
What,
that. Go ahead.
How many, 815?
Well, there's 500.
Oh, I guess there's 500 actives, yeah.
So it sounds like.
Right.
So that's about 10%, 11%? That seems like a lot to me. but-
And what's also interesting is we've got that broken down by age. And the largest group is the 51 to 60 with 18,000. However, 21 to 30, we've got 2,000, 31 to 40, almost 10,000, 41 to 50, 15,000. So, and then.
They are getting away from paper the younger they're getting.
Yes, that's
Still
correct.
10,000 though, still. It's like-
Yeah.
I
I
don't
thought
get
that-
anything on paper now.
Was interesting.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Andrew.
Then we also got information on how many years we've been sending out the RPRs. Earliest reference we can find is 1971.
The fossil.
However,
You make it sound like a paleontologist or something. When we went searching in the caves, we found an RPR.
So we have been issuing those for
71.
a number of years. And then Harry asked about stakeholder groups sending email blasts to promote awareness of the RPRs, and we're not aware of any efforts. However, we, CalSTRS, do that kind of marketing. And also, just to follow up on the Inyo Mono point that you made, Dana, we do conduct workshops in those areas, and they are conducted by the Riverside Member Service Center staff.
makes a lot of sense.
You were very on point with that geography.
go.
And
I
we'll-
made that in your
You know your
mono
east
run
side.
for CTA.
Yes.
Once upon a time.
And we are working with CTA to monitor demand in those areas and provide monthly group sessions.
Great, cool.
And then finally, wanted to let you know, per sort of our agreement with regards to those regular reports, I would let you know when they're available on the TRB website. So on the website, for your reading pleasure at the moment, is the Benefits and Services Annual Accomplishments Report.
Very cool.
And we also have the statutory reports on late interest and outstanding death benefits. Those reports are required to be given monthly, so when you go to look for them, you'll see them monthly.
Super, thank
And
you.
that's all that I have. If you
Okay.
don't have any other questions or comments,
Any questions for Andrew? I think that's all I got. Great.
great.
Thank you. And then we've got item 6, review of information requests. Scott, I think there were a couple that I took note of. Do you have anything?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Ooh,
Well, I had one.
I'm not a lawyer. I just want to say,
certainly might
I
have
just
more
thought,
than me. I had one for item 3, where the committee requested that when staff updates the MSC and satellite office demographic slides, to add staffing figures.
yes, that one. And then I think it might not have been a info request, but I think it was the idea of maybe modifying the maps from Dana, what Dana was saying with Indio and what's the other one?
Inumano.
Inumano?
Inumano.
Your
mama.
mama. You say that the
Yeah,
wrong way,
five.
doesn't it?
Mono Indio.
Is maybe modifying those maps?
Yes.
So that was my only other one.
Okay.
Scott, is that
Perfect.
acceptable? All right.
Very good, thanks.
Great, thanks. Great. Information requests. And then number 7, Andrew, do you want to take us through our draft agenda for our next meeting, which is in February?
Sure, draft agenda for the next meeting. Christine Briseño and I, she's our Director of Member Account Services. We're going to talk to you about employer audit findings, specifically around systemic audit findings and what we do in terms of outreach and education to help employers avoid those types of misreportings in future reports. And then also, Elisa is going to talk about the emerging educational delivery methods, a continuation of an earlier presentation. And those are the 2 items
Great.
that we have.
Hey, Elisa, how many members are on the research team now?
We have 6.5.
Would it be possible in February, could you bring them in or at least introduce us to all of them at maybe the beginning of a presentation, just so that we can meet them? And, we like to get the staff in front of us and have them introduce themselves. And so if you wouldn't mind to do that. Since you're growing, I would like to know who we're looking at, so. Sure.
I'll bring the whole team in February.
Great, thank you. I don't know how to do the 6.5 part, but you can figure that out. That's, you can work on that. Great, excellent, all right. I think that's it, and we've got opportunities for statements from the public. There's a person in the public that I adore, Loretta Tottenberger.
All right, Loretta Toggenberger, United Teachers Los Angeles, retired. I want to thank Alicia. She's got all the active people there, and then we're at the other end. Don't forget us, and I know you don't, and yesterday was one of the best client advisory meetings where the retirees had their say, and I think it's going to be addressed. Good. My next item, United Teachers Los Angeles General Assembly. We have 4 or 5 of them a year, and our January meeting is always either CalSTRS CEO, Jack Enos, and then the following year is our Chief Investment Officer, Chris Ailman. Our people look forward to the CalSTRS people coming. And it's this year, it's going to be Chris Ailman. And our people, the one lady said, oh, I don't know, I don't like to hear about this. This is 2 years ago about finance. I don't know anything about it. The other one said, I didn't, but I've been coming and hearing. I've sure learned. So they really like to come and hear it. And our retirees, you told us about all those active coming up. Well, we get them. And that's why we're here.
Got it. Thank you, Loretta.
Next.
Good afternoon.
Greetings. My name is Irene Wetzel. I'm serving as president of the Cal RTA, which is California Retired Teachers. And I take my hat off to you folks that are increasing the outreach to the people who are working. And so we have come across more information that people want than just CalSTRS. They want to know about signing up for Medicare. They want to know, oh, you know, the big thing that happens when you're a senior? Your teeth give out. So you have to prepare for dental. You find all sorts of things that people need to know about. Even how do you do the end of life things so you can set them to the side and not worry about them. So we also have our outreach program. And in many cases, we have coordinated with different people from CalSTRS where they can plug in information, invitation to the workshops. So this is a developing service in what we're doing, and we like to partner with you whenever possible or any other retired teachers association. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, yeah, welcome, and look forward to partnering with you. Great, I think we're good for the day. Benefits and Services is adjourned, and have a good evening, and we'll see you guys in the morning. I think regular board meeting starts at 8:30, Dana?
8:30.
All right, we'll see you at 8:30 in the morning, everyone.